We think we know ancient Egypt. The pharaohs, the laborers, the Nile, the desert, the pyramids. The textbooks close and the story appears complete. But history has a way of leaving certain doors slightly open. Draw a line across the world at 30 degrees north latitude, and something strange begins to appear. Giza rests close to that line. So does Persepolis, once the ceremonial heart of the Persian Empire. Farther east stands Mohenjo-Daro, one of the most enigmatic cities of the Bronze Age. Beyond it, high on the Tibetan plateau, lies Lhasa, a spiritual capital nearly 13,000 feet above sea level. Then cross the Pacific, and the pattern seems to echo in reverse. Machu Picchu rises in the Andes, not at 30 degrees north, but near its southern mirror, as if the Earth itself were reflecting an old design across the equator. Add to this the immense drawings carved into the Peruvian desert, visible only from the sky, and the mystery deepens. Different continents, different ages, different gods, different languages, yet again and again, the same planetary belt appears. Perhaps it is coincidence, but perhaps it is a memory we no longer know how to read. Cairo, July 1798. Napoleon Bonaparte stood before the Great Pyramid and told his soldiers, 40 centuries are looking down upon you from the tops of these pyramids. He was right about the weight of time. But perhaps he did not yet understand what those stones were truly saying. Among his expedition was Adam Francois Jomard, an engineer and mathematician with a mind trained to notice what others ignored. While Napoleon saw conquest, Jomard saw numbers. He measured, recorded, and studied. Years later, his calculations unsettled Europe. The Great Pyramid stood almost exactly at 30 degrees north latitude, missing it by less than 10 arc minutes, roughly 3 miles. For a monument built around 2560 BC, this did not look like accident. It looked like intention. And to Jomard, 30 degrees was not just a line. It was a key. It is here, beneath the quiet motion of the stars, that the angle between the horizon and the North Star becomes exactly 30 degrees. It is here that a traveler can read his position with astonishing accuracy, not with machines but with shadows, patience, and the night sky. At 30 degrees north, geography becomes more than location. It becomes an anchor bound to the geometry of the Earth itself. Jomard understood this, but he was cautious. He did not shout prophecy. He simply wrote down the numbers. And in this story, the numbers begin to speak. Now move east to Iran, 515 BC. Darius the Great begins building a new imperial capital at the foot of Mount Ramat, raised upon a stone platform nearly 40 feet high. Its construction would continue for roughly 70 years, passing through the reigns of 3 kings. This was Persepolis. Its latitude, 29 degrees, 56 minutes north. Almost the same line as Giza, accurate within only a few miles. The Persians knew Egypt. Darius had conquered it, had seen its temples and pyramids, had stood before monuments already ancient in his own time. Could he have chosen Persepolis with that knowledge in mind? The official answer is no. Historians point to water, stone, defense, and geography. Practical reasons. Reasonable reasons. But then comes Mohenjo-Daro. In what is now Pakistan, this Bronze Age city rose around the same era as ancient Egypt, yet belonged to a very different world. Its people had no pharaohs, no pyramids, no known connection to the Nile. Their writing remains undeciphered, but their city possessed straight streets, standardized bricks, and one of the earliest known urban drainage systems. Its latitude was about 27 degrees, 20 minutes north. Not exact, but close enough to remain inside the same mysterious belt. 3 civilizations, 3 cities, different gods, different languages, different destinies, all gathered between roughly 27 and 31 degrees north. At first, this proves nothing. But slowly, a pattern begins to take shape, quiet and uncomfortable. In 1958, Professor Charles Hapgood published The Earth's Shifting Crust, arguing that ancient sites may have followed geodetic and geomagnetic principles we no longer understand. His ideas were heavily criticized. Yet one voice urged caution before dismissing him entirely. Albert Einstein wrote the foreword, describing Hapgood's theory as worthy of serious attention. Not proof, not certainty, but a warning that the past may still hold measurements we have forgotten how to make. The greatest physicist of the 20th century did not dismiss the mystery. He asked that it be examined. And that matters, because the moment we add 2 more points to the map, the question becomes harder to ignore. The year is 1911. High in the Andes of Peru, American historian Hiram Bingham climbed a steep, rain-slicked slope with a local farmer named Melchor Arteaga. They were nearly 8,000 feet above sea level. The air was thin, the stones were wet, and every step carried the weight of uncertainty. Then, through the clouds and vegetation, something appeared. Terraces, stairways, walls, and silent palaces built without mortar, their stones fitted so precisely that a knife blade could not pass between them. It was Machu Picchu. Bingham believed he had found Vilcabamba, the last refuge of the Incas. He was mistaken. This was another city, perhaps a royal estate connected to the ruler Pachacuti, built around 1450 AD. But for now, the purpose of the city is not the central mystery. The coordinates are: Machu Picchu lies at roughly 13 degrees, 9 minutes south latitude. At first, it seems outside the pattern. A different hemisphere, a different world. But the Earth does not think in the flat lines of a classroom map. It curves, reflects, and balances. The southern latitudes mirror the northern ones across the equator, and the wider band between 10 and 40 degrees north and south has long been called a cradle zone of civilization. In this belt, agriculture can flourish. Seasons can be red. Winters are less brutal, and tropical extremes are softened. Yet the question remains: if this whole region was favorable, why were the great centers not scattered evenly across it? Why Giza there, and not 120 miles farther north? Why Persepolis on that precise ground? One man spent 20 years pursuing that question. His name was Jim Allison, an engineer from North Carolina. He was not an academic authority. He was a patient observer, studying satellite images, coordinates, and the geometry of the globe. In 1999, he published a hypothesis online: Giza, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Nazca, Machu Picchu, and many others were not connected only by latitude. They seemed to fall along a great circle, a geodesic, the shortest path across the surface of a sphere. On a flat Mercator map, the line bends, but on the Earth itself, it becomes one enormous arc. Allison mapped 73 ancient and sacred sites along it, from Egypt to Easter Island, from Persia to Angkor Wat. He claimed many fell within just a few miles of the line. If true, coincidence becomes a smaller word than mystery. But what does it mean? Before we go further, pause for a moment and look around you. Are you watching from home, or are you somewhere on the road? Write the city you are from in the comments. And while you are there, leave a like. It helps this channel more than you may realize. Thank you. Now, back to the mystery. There are a few explanations, and each one carries its own weakness. The first is simple coincidence. Civilizations arose where life was easier, near rivers, fertile soil, and stable climates. The belt between 20 and 40 degrees latitude offered warmth, seasons, and conditions that made farming possible. From that point of view, there is no mystery at all. People built where people could survive. It is a logical answer, but it does not fully explain the precision. Why not 3 degrees away? Why not 28 degrees? Why does Giza sit so close to 30 degrees north and not deeper in the Nile Delta, where the soil was richer and life might have seemed easier? The second explanation is navigation. At 30 degrees north, the North Star stands 30 degrees above the horizon. To ancient observers, this was not just a star. It was a fixed point, a celestial marker, a way to read the earth through the sky. Perhaps Egyptian builders understood this. Perhaps Persians reached the same conclusion. Perhaps different people, under the same heavens, discovered the same hidden order. This may be the strongest explanation, and it may be partly true. But it does not explain Machu Picchu. The Incas had no known contact with Egypt or Persia. They left no writing system capable of passing precise global coordinates across oceans. So why, in another hemisphere, do we find the same strange attraction to sacred geography? The third explanation is the hardest to accept. In academic rooms, it is rarely spoken plainly, but the question remains. What if there was an older source of knowledge, a forgotten civilization before the civilizations we recognize? What if Egypt, Persia, and the Inca were not beginnings, but echoes? Plato wrote of Atlantis. Most dismiss it as myth, yet he gave details, dates, and a time frame, 9,000 years before his own age, around 11,000 BC. And around that same period, the last ice age was ending. Sea levels rose nearly 400 feet. Lands once walked by human beings vanished beneath the ocean. And then there is Lhasa, Tibet, standing nearly 12,000 feet above sea level. The air is thin. Winters can be brutal. There are no great river highways, no wide, fertile plains. Nothing about it seems easy. And yet, somehow, it became a spiritual capital, as if some places are chosen not for comfort, but for meaning. Yet Lhasa, the heart of the Tibetan world since the 7th century AD, became home to the Potala Palace, one of the highest palaces on earth. For centuries, pilgrims crossed dangerous mountain passes to reach it. Some suffered from altitude sickness. Some died along the way. Still, others continued, driven by a belief that this place was not merely chosen by men, but called by something deeper. Its latitude is 29 degrees, 39 minutes north, astonishingly close to the same planetary band. Why here? Tibetan Buddhists would answer without hesitation, because it is a place of power. Because earthly energy rises differently in these mountains. Because Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, is spiritually bound to this land. A physicist might use another language. At extreme altitude, the relationship between Earth's surface, the atmosphere, and electrical fields may shift in subtle ways. Schumann resonances, electromagnetic waves moving between the Earth and the ionosphere, have a fundamental frequency near 7.83 Hz. A range often compared to the alpha rhythm of the human brain in meditative states. To some, this is not superstition. It is measurable physics touching the edge of human perception. The question is not whether such forces exist. The question is whether ancient people sensed them, and if so, how. In the 1970s, Soviet researcher Nikolai Goncharov, with Vyacheslav Morozov and Valery Makarov, proposed a strange hypothesis in the journal Chemistry and Life. They suggested that the Earth might contain a hidden geometric pattern, an energy lattice they called the Earth crystal. According to their model, the planet could be divided through an icosahedral structure, with lines and nodes crossing the globe. They claimed some of these intersections appeared near major natural anomalies, magnetic zones, volcanic regions, ocean trenches, and ancient centers of civilization. Goncharov did not say the ancients understood crystal geometry. He simply observed that certain places seemed to gather unusual geological or electromagnetic qualities, as if the Earth itself had preferred points of intensity. Perhaps human beings felt these places before they could explain them. You may have experienced something similar. You enter a room, a church, a canyon, or an old stone building, and something in your body becomes quiet. Not because you understand the architecture, but because your nervous system is reading sound, light, humidity, pressure, and invisible fields. One practical explanation remains. These lines may have functioned as astronomical calendars, marking solstices, equinoxes, star risings, and seasonal winds, helping ancient farmers predict rain in dry lands. It is reasonable and partly supported. But it leaves one haunting question. Why make the signs so vast? Why draw a 300-foot figure across the desert when a simple line would have been enough? Unless the image was never merely decoration. Unless it was a message. But to whom? At this point, people often begin speaking about aliens. I will not. Not because the question is uninteresting, but because there is another explanation that feels more human, and in some ways, more disturbing. What if the Nazca people sensed that their world would not last? What if drought, war, famine, or disease were already closing in, and they wanted to leave behind something that could not be burned, stolen, or erased? Something too large for an enemy to carry away. Something so vast that even after centuries of silence, it would still be waiting in the desert. A message on a planetary scale, made by people who may have known they were disappearing, and yet kept drawing. Now imagine that kind of sensitivity sharpened over thousands of years. Imagine living without smartphones, concrete walls, power lines, engines, or the constant electromagnetic noise of the modern world. Your body would become the instrument. Your eyes, your ears, your skin, your breathing, your sense of direction, all tuned to the land and sky. In such a world, what would a human being feel at 30 degrees latitude? What would the Earth seem to say? This is not proof, but it is a question worth carrying. So let us return to Nazca, in Peru, about 125 miles south of Lima. Here, in one of the driest regions on Earth, lines stretch across nearly 300 square miles of desert. Some run for miles with astonishing precision. Others form birds, monkeys, spiders, fish, and vast trapezoids that resemble runways to the modern eye. They were made by the Nazca culture between roughly 200 BC and 600 AD. From the ground, they are almost impossible to understand. You see only stones, paths, and pale lines fading toward the horizon. But from above, the hidden forms emerge. A landscape becomes an image. A desert becomes a manuscript. The German mathematician Maria Reich gave her life to this mystery. She arrived in Peru in the 1940s and stayed for decades, mapping, measuring, and protecting the lines. She slept in the desert beside the drawings, as if guarding the remains of a vanished conversation. Now, open a map. Find Giza. Its latitude is about 29.97. Persepolis, about 29.93. Mohenjo-Daro, about 27.32. Lhasa, about 29.65. The numbers are not legend. They are there, waiting in plain sight. Same climate belt. Same strange attraction to 30 degrees. And in some cases, perhaps, the same great circle, crossing oceans, mountains, and time. In the end, perhaps the simplest explanation is still the most reasonable. Giza, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Lhasa, Machu Picchu, and Nazca may stand where they do because these places offered climate, water, stone, visibility of the heavens, strategic terrain, and the conditions needed for civilization to grow. Some of the patterns we see on the map may truly be coincidence. The human mind is built to search for order, even where nature may have left only scattered points. Science is right to be cautious. It must demand evidence, measurement, repetition, and proof. Without that discipline, mystery becomes fantasy. But caution is not the same as complacency. A reasonable explanation does not mean the whole truth has been understood. The danger is not science itself, but the human habit of closing a question too quickly. History has warned us before. Troy was once treated as myth. Knossos seemed like legend. Göbekli Tepe did not fit the accepted timeline of early temples, yet its stones forced the modern world to think again. So perhaps we should not lock every door that history has not yet fully opened. If these ancient places are only isolated points, why do they still give the impression of a larger order? If the ancients sensed the earth, the stars, energy, and sacred geography in ways we no longer understand, then what have we lost? We have satellites, artificial intelligence, digital maps, and global data. Yet perhaps we have lost silence, patience, reverence, and the ability to listen to nature without trying to conquer it. Maybe the greatest key is not only in technology, but in the human heart. To understand the deeper mysteries of history and the universe, people may need to cultivate themselves, improve their morality, live truthfully, act with kindness, and become patient enough to rise above arrogance and desire. When the mind is clouded, even visible traces remain unreadable. But when a person reaches higher understanding, what once seemed mysterious may slowly reveal its place in a greater order. And if these ancient works are truly traces of a greater intelligence, then what are they asking of us? Who are we? Where did we come from? And where are we going in this vast universe? What do you think these places are trying to tell us? Share your thoughts in the comments and tell us which ancient site feels most mysterious to you. If this journey made you wonder, subscribe to the channel because the next mystery may bring us even closer to the forgotten truth.